Welcome back everyone to the EV Puzzle. Yep, today's test drive day. Doing some test drives to test sport mode, eco mode and comfort mode, but also regen level 3, 2, 1, 0 and smart regen as well. So I'm going to test them all on a preset little circuit that I've got going here, and we're going to see which one is the more efficient. So I was pleased to see that a fellow YouTuber, Water Stink, he was he was looking at my video and commenting on the left-hand regen paddle, and then doing a test in his Ionic to see if the Ionic had the pull and hold and bring it to an absolute stop, which he found the Ionic didn't have, but the Kona does have. So Water Stink, what about the right-hand paddle? If you pull and hold the right-hand paddle in the Kona for more than a second, then it switches on and off auto recuperation. So that's the smart regen braking, but auto, so it's handling it in a smart way. How that works, I haven't tested it yet, so I don't know. Okay, we're now at the point where I need to reset all the meters, so let's get ready to rumble, as they say. Roughly from here. Watching out for traffic as I'm doing it. And we're off. Okay, that's test run 1 complete. Basically I'm in sport mode, regen braking level 3, unable to use cruise control because I'm in sport mode. That doesn't seem to be available in sport mode. And the round trip that I've done with quite a few roundabouts backwards and forwards, it's a little loop circuit that I found. It's 9.1 miles and the efficiency that I've achieved is 5.1 miles per kilowatt hour. And that took about quarter of an hour for that run. It's 20 degrees outside. That's the statistics for the first run in sport mode, regen level 3. So now I'm going to try regen off completely, 0. And obviously adjust my braking distances accordingly to try and coast more rather than actually using the regen. And the idea of these tests is to see which one's more efficient. Is it sport mode, comfort mode, eco mode, or is it regen level 3, regen level 2, regen level 1, or off, or smart regen? Right, so let's go for the second test. First thing I'm noticing in sport mode is on rough country roads, the bumping and bouncing is actually causing a just slightly jerky motion, so it's not perfect. And what am I finding now with regen level 0, so absolute coasting? Well, the car's not coming to a stop as you'd expect. I just need to nip past here. So yeah, sport mode, it's great. I can be smooth on this dual carriageway and I can modulate the throttle to make it a smooth ride. So sport is very smooth if you want to on this sort of road. But on a rough country road where it's lumping and bumping, your foot is coming on and off the throttle a bit more, and that is causing a slightly, just ever so slightly, lurchy ride. So on bumpy terrain, I don't think I'd recommend sport mode. It's a real significant difference though as you approach a roundabout. The difference between regen level 3 braking and now what I'm in now, which is coasting level 0. One of the things I've noticed already is as you approach a roundabout and your foot's off the throttle and you're getting some regeneration, that's when your average miles per kilowatt really increases. So what will be interesting is how that works with it off with the coasting. But obviously I'm not going to gain that electricity back, so all that saving that I've had with regen level 3 I've now got to gain by being off throttle coasting, anticipating the junction ahead. Like now I can see there's 4 or 5 cars, trucks ahead, so off the throttle virtually, and it's not decelerating. I'm off completely. 51, 50, 49, 48, it just does not decelerate, so I'm not judging that very well at the moment and actually having to brake. So braking very gently, which obviously is using some regen, but I'll try harder to have foot off the throttle and coast further. Speed-wise, I'm going to basically do between 50 and 56, try not to go above that or below that. And the reason for that, basically I don't want to catch any other traffic up, so that I have to do extra braking and extra slowing down, because that will distort the figures. So I want a consistent drive for each mode, uninterrupted by any other traffic. Which means I can give my full attention to coasting, which foot's off the throttle now again, 52, and it's just not slowing down. It is coasting so well. That's a completely different style of driving. Again, I'm having to brake. I can't believe how far ahead you have to anticipate to maximise the coasting. Nice and easy on the throttle. So while we're on a nice straight bit of road and there's not a lot going on, something I observed early this morning. I turned the car on first thing. It was in park mode, just basically turned it on, ready to put it into drive mode, and I noticed the electronics were using 0.9 of a kilowatt. And you think, well, there's nothing on. There was no radio, there was no heated seats, there was no air conditioning or fan heater. Nothing was on in the car, and yet it was using 0.9 of a kilowatt. Now, as I drove along to get to this area, I noticed it came down to 0.3, 0.4. And now, as we're driving along, 0.2, 0.18. So I wonder what was using that extra energy when I first turned the car on. Is it the battery thermal management? Is that what was actually happening? So was it doing a little bit of preheating? I might have to do a little bit more testing to find out. Well, I'm not sure whether this is an indication that I can actually follow, but I just saw, as we approached that roundabout, the average miles per kilowatt hour was up to 5.9. Now, accelerating off the roundabout, it's back down to 5.2, but I didn't see a number as high as 5.9 on the first test. So, is that an initial indication that coasting with sport mode is more economical than sport mode with regen level 3? I don't know. We'll find out at the end of the test run. We're not quite halfway yet. For all those that are following my videos and remember one of the earlier ones that I mentioned, I had problems charging overnight, and it didn't charge at the right time that it was supposed to in the morning. I've had another thought as to what it might be. I haven't tested it yet, but it's something that I will test. And that's my Zappi charger has a pin lock function, and I've turned it on. The idea being that I don't want anyone just turning up in the driveway and charging their car. And I wonder, with the pin lock set, whether when the car's ready to perform charging and it's already plugged in, whether the Zappi charger remains locked and you can only access it and use that charge by entering the pin. So if that's the case, which actually makes sense because anyone could turn up with the car on timer and charge it, and if I've locked it, it's locked, then that's probably the answer as to why it didn't charge. My own silly fault for setting the lock on the charger. So the charger needs to be ready to actually charge if I've got the timer set. So that's halfway. We're halfway, and 5.3, 5.1 miles per kilowatt now. So it's going to be interesting. I actually can't wait to see the results of all of these, because if there's hardly any difference between any of the modes, then basically just set the mode that you find most pleasurable to drive in. But if one is 10 or 20% different, or something tangible, then it does make you think on a longer distance journey you'll know what settings to put the car in to extract the most range. In an ideal world, yeah, I think I'd do a little bit more than 9 miles as a test loop to work out whether a particular mode or the regen level was more efficient, because it needs to average out. But there's 4 or 5 roundabouts, which are going backwards and forwards, so there's at least 10 recuperation moments, I think, and that should be enough to give an initial indication rather than a actual scientific calculation. We're slightly uphill at the moment, so I'm disappointed. I can see the average dropping. Let's take the foot off the throttle even though we're uphill. And yeah, even though it's slightly uphill, it's hardly reducing speed. This coasting is amazing. So if I actually tried to maximise my coasting and coast completely up to the junction rather than using any braking at all, basically I'd have to lift off the throttle and slow down from a huge distance away from the junction. And I can imagine that would actually annoy traffic behind in some ways. So maybe that's another game to play with the car, because while you're driving you're always trying to play the game to beat your efficiency, to be efficient and gain as much regen braking as you can, so you're using the data to have fun with the car. And I wonder whether coasting is another option for that. So coasting is a challenge to work out how much coasting you can do and how far away from the junction you can judge to lift off the throttle. So there's, for those that are into the techie stuff and the data stuff and all the analysis of the car, which is me, then there's lots to keep you occupied while you're driving. And here we are, here's the parking junction, so foot off the throttle. Right, what have we got? Well, 9.1 miles, 5.1. Although the average there says 5.2, so it must be 5.19 or something on that result there. So exactly the same time, pretty much the same speeds, the same distance, and we've got 5.2 to 5.1. We've got a slight difference between those two resetted calculations, so they must be very much on the border of 5.19 something. So yeah, that was a very good little test, wasn't it? I think from memory, that means that coasting was a little better than regen level 3. So next, let's try again with regen level... Well, which one should we try this time? 1. Let's try regen level 1. So, regen level 1 selected. Oh, and have a bit of fun, all that going economy. So yes, one of the tests, last time I tested performance in the car, I was doing 40 or 50 miles an hour, wasn't I? And no torque steer. In sport mode, yeah, it's a lot more performant, but still no torque steer there. It's actually pulling to the left slightly, which I'd have expected it to pull to the right. So I think that's the camber of the road. But we'll do another test on another test run. It seems that you see a lot of these videos online with Teslas, and there's that program on television the other night where they were doing the test with a Tesla, somebody that doesn't know what the performance is going to be like, and they accelerate and get them going, it's so fast. Well, I must admit, in sport mode, from a low speed, you can get that real thump in the back feeling, so you can get a similar impact. So yeah, it'll be fun taking people out for the first time in the car and letting them experience that, and seeing that you really do get quite a big kick in the back as it accelerates. Right hand turn, get ready to reset the economy. Basically it was about here, so we reset that one, and we reset that one without hitting any cars, and there we go. So we're back on the test circuit, so no accelerating now, and no playing with sport mode. First little roundabout, so how far ahead do I have to judge off the throttle? So we're only doing 44 there. Yeah, I can definitely feel it slowing down faster. I'm probably going to get more, should we say, coasting out of this level than I did on the last one, because I can probably better judge the distance and the braking distance. With coasting, the distance that you have to be off throttle before the car actually reaches a slower speed for the roundabout, it's too long. I've probably got time to do 2 more tests, so if I finish this test on regen level 1 and go from there, and then probably on the last test I'm going to, rather than test regen level 2 and handle everything in sport mode, I'm going to jump directly to eco mode and see whether eco mode makes a big difference or not. What's nice being able to do these tests for everyone is the fact that I've got the range. So the car had 250-ish miles of range as I set off, and I've got no doubts and no fears whatsoever that I could be out playing for an hour in the car, and I don't care about the range and using the fuel. I'm not worried about the cost. I'm not worried about having to recharge. I'm not worried about anything to do with it. It's a lovely feeling to not be concerned about fuel. So again, while we're driving along, something to chat about. I was thinking the other day about the differences between petrol diesel cars and going to fill up with fuel, and electric cars having to recharge. And there seems to me to be a significant difference in it. It came to light when I was talking about the garage that wasn't able to charge my car properly because they didn't leave it on the charger long enough. So it's not that there was a fault in their charger or anything like that, they just didn't leave it plugged in long enough. So basically with electric cars, you park while you charge. With petrol cars and diesel cars, you don't park. You're there just to fill up, you're standing waiting for it, and then you go. So if that's the case, then surely parking places are the places where we should have more chargers, more fast chargers and that sort of thing, rather than petrol stations. Petrol stations aren't any good to us because we can't park there, or we don't want to park there because there's nothing there for us to do. So is this where the Lidls of the world are putting chargers in? They will become our fuel stations, because that's where we want to go to charge our cars, because we can do something else at the same time. We can pop in and do the shopping. So if Asda, Morrison's, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, Lidl, Aldi, if all of those companies put chargers into their stores, then we would have the same abundance of petrol stations, the effective places you can go to recharge, as you do with ICE cars. So at the moment when you go on a journey, you don't think about where the petrol station is, because there's always going to be one. There's one nearby. But that's the same with supermarkets. There's always one nearby. So effectively, for infrastructure wise, I'm starting to think all this talk about motorways and infrastructure on the major roads, it's not necessarily the motorways where we need it. That only suits the people that are commuting to and from London and crossing the country. So for the everyday person, supermarkets might be the place that we need chargers. So I hope that Aldi follows Lidl's lead and starts to put them in, because I shop at Aldi. I really enjoy the products there. So if we started to have Lidl and Aldi with chargers, then you'd start to see Tesco, Sainsbury's, Morrison's put them in as well. So yeah, supermarkets. If anyone from the supermarkets is watching, put car chargers in, because I will go shopping where there is a charger that I can plug into. I will happily change my brand of shopping for that. So I'll confess, on this test run, I was too busy talking there and I missed the roundabout to turn round on. So this has one extra roundabout in the loop. So as I get to the same number of miles, I'll have a look at the percentages, have a look at the economy, and we'll see what it is from that point, rather than actually coming to a stop, just in case it's different. It's so easy to be distracted when you're talking about EVs and charging and everything that interests you. So again, what have I seen so far on the average consumption? I haven't seen it go as high as 5.9, which I did on part of the journey on actual coasting. So my gut feeling is, with regeneration braking rather than coasting, it's going to be slightly less efficient. So I'm expecting this to still be better. So let's say the first test was 5 miles per kilowatt hour with regen level 3, and I just saw 5.1, 5.2 on coasting, so I'm imagining this is definitely going to be 5.1 to 5. At the moment it says 4.8, so not very good. But we've obviously got a couple of roundabouts to do some more regen braking and gain some more resource. 4.9, come on, we want 5. Okay, we're coming up on 9.1 miles, which is the same test range that we did previously, and it's saying 5 miles per kilowatt hour, but we haven't decelerated to a stop, so probably as we come to this roundabout, that's probably the best judge to try and do a like-for-like comparison. So we've got the same distance and the same number of stops. Oh, it's definitely going up to 5.2, 5.3. Okay, so that's more. We'll call that 5.3. So for the same distance, as best as I could on that test, we actually got 5.3 then. So that shows what? That it's just slightly better than coasting, but definitely better than regen level 3, which surprises me. I was expecting regen level 3 to be the most efficient, but in this test it doesn't seem to be the case. Okay, so we're back and the average is 5.3. That's definitely better than all the others. But we did 12.8 miles, so not a perfect comparison because I did an extra roundabout when I shouldn't have done. But next test, what are we going to test? We're going to test drive mode Eco Plus on the same regeneration level. So let's go from Sport to Eco Plus, same regeneration level, and see whether it's any different. We just managed 5.3. Let's do the same test run, the same longer one. So we're in regen level 1. I've reset the meters, and yeah, the dial's changed, hasn't it? So I've got this Eco dial, so let's see if I can work out what it is. Alright, so when you accelerate there's a little bit of red, so if you, in the inner dial on the Eco dial, in this mode, if it goes red you're obviously accelerating a bit too much. It stays white is good, and the teal around the outside, well, foot off the throttle. Not quite sure what the teal is actually showing. It's I suppose I'm being so gentle on the throttle I can't actually tell. But this will be very interesting. This is probably, I would say, the most important test of the two, because we're testing all the way from Sport mode to Eco Plus mode. Is there any difference in efficiency if you drive efficiently? So putting it in Eco Plus mode, does it give you any more energy than the last test that I did, which I ended up getting 5.3 miles per kilowatt hour? Or can you just leave it in Sport mode or Comfort mode basically, and just drive economically and gently on the throttle, and will you gain the same sort of performance, the same efficiency? So in Eco Plus mode you are limited to 60 miles an hour on speed. That's part of the mode features, but also just underneath where it says limit and the 60 miles an hour on the centre of the dash, there's also a white set of numbering that comes up showing you the amount of miles, or I guess that'd be kilometres if it's a European spec, then that you've gained in your, I think it's a recuperation in your braking. So at the moment it's showing absolutely nothing. It's been reset as I came off that roundabout and accelerated. Let's see if we can work out what it's actually doing. So it's now started, it's 0.01 as I take my foot off the throttle slightly. Take my foot off again and it's 0.02, 0.04. going up very, very slowly, just in taking my foot off the throttle. Oh, now it's gone again because my foot's on the throttle. So it's per instantaneous usage. It's not accumulating it for any period of time. So foot off the throttle completely. 0.1, now we're braking. 0.2, braking harder. 0.3. So that was telling us that coming up to that roundabout, the regeneration that I gained was 0.3 of a mile's worth of energy. So far with the Kona Electric, what do I think of the car? Well, not just the EV features, but I love the speed limit signs that come up and tell you where the speed limits are. One of my faults in driving in a nice car was I'd never slow down in time for speed limits. So if I could see a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit ahead, and I was doing 50 or 60 beforehand, I'd never slow down enough to get to 30. But in this car, in the EV, with regenerative braking, as soon as I take my foot off the throttle, and I'm more aware of the speed signs as well, I'm reducing speed a lot more. The fact that the regen braking is reducing my speed more than the engine braking in the ICE cars, I find that I'm now actually keeping to the speed limits better than what I was in the ICE car, so I like that. That's a new improvement for me. The blind spot collision warnings, the amber flashing wing mirrors, and also I've got it on my HUD display as well, the heads-up display. I really like that as well. It gives you really good awareness of what's around you. These mirrors, they're really nice shape and good size. I can see loads out of them. The visibility in the car is absolutely excellent. The hi-fi system is a massive improvement over the Sony system that I had in the Fiesta. The bass in it is incredible and it's extremely clear. It's a very, very good hi-fi system, media player, so very impressed with that. So in eco mode so far we've done 8.5 miles and 4.9 is the average for miles per kilowatt hour. Now it's just up to 5, so no difference at all so far. So on the last test run it was 5.3 miles per kilowatt hour. That's what we're trying to be in Eco Plus mode on the same Regen level 1 setting. We're trying to see whether Eco Plus will beat Sport mode or not. Let's pull in behind the truck in exactly the same space. So there you go, Eco Plus mode versus Sport mode, exactly the same. 5.3 miles per kilowatt hour for the same distance, the same journey. So although I'm seeing a difference in economy by changing the regen setting, I'm not seeing a difference changing the driving mode. There isn't an efficiency difference between Eco Plus and Sport mode. It's all how you drive the car. Right, so that's the end of my test. Basically, I'm now off to an appointment that I've got, and I'll call that a day on the test. Thank you so much for watching. I hope these stats are what interests some of you, and it's not too boring. But in conclusion, what I can find is changing the regen modes does change the efficiency of the car between regen level 3, which I did not find as efficient as regen level 1, or actually coasting. So coasting was better than 3, but regen level 1 was better than regen level 3. Thank you all for watching, thanks for subscribing, and hope you tune back in for more videos, more tests to work out what we can do with this Kona Electric, how efficient it is, and how I like setting it up. Thanks a lot for watching, see you again soon, bye bye.